Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on your Friday morning here. If you don't know me, I'm Brett Weiler. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development here at TPMA. And I'm joined by Quentin Fisher of Aiden Systems and Kelly Friend of TPMA. We have a lot to cover in a short amount of time here today. So rather than spend time doing introductions, we're going to go ahead and drop our bios in the chat if you'd like to learn more about us. I'd also encourage all of you to ask questions. Ask questions throughout the discussion using the Q&A box. We will try to get to as many as we can. And a special plug, if you haven't already, please take a moment to complete our AI enablement survey. We'll also drop that in the chat box for you. So over the past year, we've seen a clear shift in the conversations that we are having with regional organizations, including economic development organizations, workforce partners, higher ed institutions, and employers. The question's no longer what is AI? It's shifted to what should we do about it? To better understand where the field stands, TPMA has surveyed nearly 250 economic development and workforce professionals from across the country. And one finding has really stood out so far, and that's that 86% of respondents said that AI is a strategic priority for their organization over the next 2 years. So what that tells us is that the challenge is no longer convincing people that AI matters. It's figuring out how to move from interest to implementation. This urgency also reflects what's happening nationally. AI investment continues to accelerate. Businesses are integrating AI into their operations, and communities are beginning to recognize AI not just as a technology issue, but as a regional competitiveness issue. Many ways, the bigger challenge isn't adopting the technology, it's providing leadership needed to align partners, build capacity, and help businesses and workers compete in this new AI-enabled economy. We found that organizations across every sector are asking many of the same questions. How will AI change jobs and skills? How should education and training evolve? And what role should economic development organizations play in helping businesses and communities navigate this transition? So, to help us unpack a couple of those questions, I'm going to start with Quentin. Quentin, there's been a tremendous amount of noise around AI the last 2 years. You've been working directly with organizations that are implementing it every single day. So I want to hear from you, your perspective. What's actually happening in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a lot of uncertainty on where to apply it, but those folks that have applied it beyond just individual productivity, we've seen people with 20, 30% productivity gains, but businesses that have made some significant, gains with the result of this technology. It is transformational. We've seen opportunities, or we've seen people save millions of dollars in additional expenses. We've seen solutions where folks are able to, with retiring employees, kind of try and capture some of that knowledge and before it leaves the door. That's the IP of a lot of these organizations, and then that can help onboard some of the younger staff faster to kind of get them up to speed. But in general, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty and fear about, where to go, where to get started. And I think the key message is, hey, the models are good enough. Now we have to start applying it in some of these real world use cases.
Yeah, so let's build on that, Quentin. So you shared with us a little bit of some of the general successes you've seen with implementation and adoption. I'm wondering if you could dive into that a little bit more and maybe cite a specific use case that you've seen work for an organization adopting new AI technologies.
Yeah, I think that we've seen folks use some of these. There's the classic machine learning, and then there's the new generative AI stuff, and we see traction on both fronts, right? And on the classic machine learning, we see, great. It's easier to do now than ever, right?
Yeah.
So that stuff is there, and you can have forecasting solutions out there that once again will save you millions of dollars because you're able to plan and coordinate better. And now and you can do that with your data, not some generic model, right? We've also seen a lot of scenarios where quality has radically improved in manufacturers because now they're able to receive all this information and it's actually changed how they're going to market, right? We're now seeing a lot of manufacturers send out a digital passport along with their products and solutions as well. So now that there's a kind of a history or compliance record, right? Not only that, it's then used for continuous improvement, quality improvement, all that stuff. So radically transforms a lot of that. So those are some two examples of organizations that have seen some real benefit by using these tools.
Thanks, Quentin. So you mentioned uncertainty in your opening remarks. I'm also curious about some of the barriers that these businesses are facing as they try to keep pace and adopt AI.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like I said earlier, the models are good enough now. The issue is the organizational scaffolding to support or serve or use the models. So I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, a limiting factor is kind of on two fronts. One, the data, right? Data is the fuel for this rocket ship. It's all, if you don't use your data, you might as well just be asking ChatGPT, right? There's no differentiation, right? So you need to have your data at the level that it can and take advantage of this intelligent automation, your data, your processes, and then of course the people side of it, right? A lot of times this is an opt-in thing. It's not a default. And so there's a lot of change management associated with that. And that's the other stuff. This change is happening fast. And so the people are a huge, huge component that you need to take into account with any change. And this change is coming faster than ever.
Thanks, Quentin. Kelly, we're going to tag you in here. In my
Hmm.
opening remarks, I said we've been talking to a lot of regional organizations, economic development, workforce development, education. Um, what role should these regional organizations be thinking about? What should be top of mind for them?
I'm gonna go play right off of what Quentin was saying. It is the human aspect that they should be playing. So when we talk about economic development, and business retention and expansion, they're already convening with employers, so they should be asking AI questions. What's going on with your business? How are you handling this? What is going on with your change management? How are you picking tools? And being able to manage that up. A lot of states are already looking at AI policies, but this is where it happens on a region. We really need to know what employers are saying, and we need to translate that back to workforce development boards. So that starts working into workforce development. How are they looking at, LMI data? What is the same kind of method that we use to forecast what automation was doing? Let's start forecasting what is AI doing. And the best way to do that is knowing exactly what's happening at the business level. So economic development moves into workforce development and then informs our education providers. They need to start making curriculum, right? So like, how are they informed on the curriculum and the skills and the skill gaps? And we also have an early adopters and then we have late adopters to this. So we're going to see skill gaps on the education side. So I think those are the roles, right? So convening and then skilling and then also being able to communicate. And I think the communication through those partners is going to be the way forward.
So I love that answer, Kelly. I think when people hear AI, they get a little overwhelmed,
Yeah.
right? Some technology that they sort of understand,
Mm.
but what you've just outlined for us really, to me, is traditional economic development. It's a coordinated and collaborative ecosystem of partners that are adopting or adapting to a new technology and working together to
Mhm.
ensure that they are well prepared for this technology evolution. You've had the chance to work with some of these organizations pretty closely. What are some of the organizations that you've worked with doing well?
So what they're doing well is they're making sure that their AI strategy is human centric. They're not missing the human part of it. The other thing that they're doing is they're not picking tools off the shelf immediately. They're really examining what are they trying to solve. So they put an equation out there and they're like, we are solving for this problem, and this is what we would like to do. It's either capacity or consistency or better wraparound services. Those are the types of things that have a pointed problem that they can solve with AI. Now they're bringing the human centric around it, which is leaning into governance. How do we govern our AI policies? Like anything else, it can't run rampant. So you need to bring the smart humans to the forefront and control the tool, and then later buy the tool. So don't buy all the tools first and then wonder what to do with them and try to solve all the problems. It has to be very concise and succinct if you really want to move forward. That is truly the equation that the successful clients that we've had at TPMA have done. So, and that's what we're coaching on.
Yeah, I love that. And Quentin, I certainly don't want to put you on the spot here. I did see you perk up a little bit. Is there anything you wanted to add here?
Yeah, I was just going to say that some people get so tied up into what tool, what product, all that stuff. And we used to have these big debates, is it this tool or that tool? And we realized that, these tools are moving pretty fast. And lots of times it's an and, right? And it's really important to focus, as Kelly mentioned, on the business problem, the business challenge that you're starting to kind of go after, and that the technology to solve certain problems may be different. We kind of say it's kind of like you have a destination you're trying to get to, and it's a flight path. And not every flight path requires a 747. Sometimes you just need a little Cessna hop thing. That's great, right? Use that, get going. But other things, yeah, you're interacting with customers, and you need to have a lot more of the governance that Kelly talked about in order to make sure that you're representing yourself right and all these things. So my point is that once again, the technologies are moving extremely fast, but it's got to be always anchored into that business problem, and
Mhm.
then that these technical pieces fit into an overarching framework and approach. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Quinn, I just want to tag on real quick. A lot of institutions and organizations are going to want to treat this like they're a startup. And they're going to forget a little bit of really why they're in business, right? They get this new tech tool and then they're like, oh, we just need to collect them all. When really it just needs to go hand in hand with their strategic plan. Does does bringing AI into this part have a ROI for us? Yes, no, and start working through that. And I think that's where the regional organizations that you mentioned, Brett, could really help with that. And the more that they're connected with the businesses, I think we're set on that flight path, Quentin. So thank you, Brett.
Awesome. I've learned that Quentin is very adept at analogies in recent weeks. So I love the airplane flight path. It's great. It's one of many I've heard from Quentin in the last few weeks. Um, so we've heard about some of the things that these regional organizations are doing well. There is a flip side to that. So I'm wondering, we'll start with Kelly. What are they getting wrong? And you've touched a little bit on it already about buying the tool and then trying to figure out. I wonder
Yeah.
if you could elaborate on what you've seen, maybe some of the roadblocks or hiccups have been in adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, is trying to consume all AI products all at once without an evaluation, without understanding what they do or what really how they perform. So that will set you back. It will not bring you forward. The second is choosing. They choose without thought. or process or a strategic plan of what they want to put AI in. It is very easy to think that AI will be this like broad spectrum, um, solve all your problems, and it will automate from my email to my production to my correspondence. When truly you need to be set on a path of what you would really like to do, because it's not going to remove the human. It's going to be an enhancement of the human work. So we still need to stay human centric. And it's not the answer for everything. It hallucinates, right? And with a wrong product, you could definitely just end up in a lot of trouble. The other part is if you don't own the end result as your own work, then you're going to get it all wrong. So you have to own what AI puts out, and you have to put your own voice and eyes on it. And this goes for all three regional organizations. They're going to use it, and then they're going to really kind of put that out into the world. So yeah, I think those are things to watch out for. Be very careful.
Thanks, Kelly. Quentin, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think AI is more expensive than a conventional
Yes.
piece of software, right? It lives in the wild, data is moving around. It takes more TLC to keep it. Another analogy, right? AI is like a plant, right? It's in the wild. You water it, you feed it. If you do that, it'll actually get stronger and better and like better. I bought a Tesla car. It's a better car now than I bought it. I've actually bought it in 2018. Way better because it's about drives itself, right? Way better vehicle. That's the way AI is. But if you don't maintain it, it will wilt and die, and your investment will be gone, right? So I think that's another kind of key aspect that, and back to the ROI side of it, this is a business thing, and you need to make sure that there's enough juice for the squeeze. So as you're putting this in, you know that you're getting the value out of it, and that there is some support required. But if you do that, it'll be better and grow. So you just got to be a bit smart about how you're applying it and the resources you're putting forth around it.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
Quentin, I'm
Quentin.
just going to tag in real quick. In TPMA's work with the AI consortiums that we have been working with and in the work, evaluation has came up.
Yeah.
Reevaluating the tools, reevaluating what is good 6 months from now, a year from
Yeah.
now. There has to be an evaluation. So there's got to be a stakeholder convening of what that looks like. And then on the output, is it still working? Because to your point, your car has changed why the physical
Yeah.
hasn't, right? But the way that it function has, is that going to be the same for our regional conveners, right? And the businesses, is it really going to be the same in 6 months? You can't just let it go. You got to evaluate it. Thank you, Brett,
And,
for
and
letting me tag onto
yeah, and
that.
I'll even jump in. Even the observability is a key term they talk about, right?
Ooh,
Guess
yeah,
what? These token costs can get out of control if you just let people. There's been a bunch of news articles about that stuff. Just
yeah.
go at it,
If
right?
Yeah, if anybody here today, just Google, right? Before you think that AI can solve all of your business problems or it's really great everywhere, tokens are super expensive. I'm a little annoyed that it just doesn't let me do all the things that I want to do, but I refuse to upgrade to the X amount, whatever the next level is. But think of it as a business expense. Should you really be using AI for this? And that's a strategic move, something that you should talk to your economic development or your higher ed, your workforce. Should we be really using AI for this because of the cost? It can get really expensive. Google, yeah.
Yeah, and measuring these AI agents or processes just like you would employees and people. So this is kind of back to some of that scaffolding that you need in
Mhm.
place to kind of level up to more and more automation. Your business processes, your data, all that stuff needs to go in concert with the use of these very, very intelligent tools, right? So that's kind of part of that scaffolding we talked about earlier. That's so critical to make sure that you're getting the value and the return.
So, Kelly, one more quick question for you. And you touched on it, but I'm going to double back a little bit here. You've recently worked on some AI strategy initiatives for universities across Indiana. Indiana, very exciting work. Just curious, what were some of the most interesting findings from that research work that you did?
That governance came up and it was top of mind. How do we govern this? How do our students become AI ready? But also, how do they become competent in using the tools, but also the awareness around of how AI will change their jobs in the future. So, but I think the biggest thing was how do we really support our students' journey, but also how do we protect it with the things that we know that to be true. Like we know that students need wraparound services, but we also know that they need access to that. Can AI plug into that? And how does it do better for the student and not necessarily just do better for the college, right? So what's the two? What's the two? How is the student journey going to benefit from this? And how is the institution going to benefit from this? So those were really interesting aspects that came up, how they work hand in hand.
Yeah, I'm going to test the limits of our time limit here because I want to ask this question a little off script. Quentin, yesterday when we were talking, we talked about coding and software engineers. And you shared some observations about that. And I think it's particularly relevant to the economic development and workforce development professionals in the room. Can you rehash some of the discussion
Yeah.
we had about how AI is going to impact those professions, maybe in particular?
Sure. And to build on what Kelly said, like the change, the influence, things are happening so fast, right? So the importance of what she said is even growing, right? And it's changing. And so it needs to be adapting. So there's a lot of doomerism when Claude came out with the Claude code. It was really kind of in January of this year, it got to be really good, right? And it got good that it actually, I know for myself personally, it 5 to 10x my code. Like I wasn't the best coder, but if 5 to 10x my coding skills, and I knew what I wanted to do, it enabled it. So now everybody's like, oh no, all the junior developers are not going to find a job, and everybody was really concerned for about, you know, 4 or 5 months. And then what they realized that the price point dropped. So now everybody can actually develop software. And all these news articles hit where inexperienced people were vibe coding and blowing away production databases. So, so what that actually did is now you got 10x the code being generated. Guess what? Now you need more software engineers. So now there's a need for more, and I think this is going to happen along a number of different disciplines and careers. This is just the first easiest use case that we're seeing, and I think it's a pattern, and it just shows the importance of these EDOs to kind of try and keep up pace with this. And this, I think, this is going to generate a work shortage because of the demand.
Thanks.
Couldn't I
Go ahead, Kelly. We're getting close on time, but
Yeah,
please.
yeah, just real quick, like this is a signal to higher education. Start looking and start connecting with what Quentin's saying here because degrees will change. Not huge, right? I don't think that, they're gonna EEC degrees are gonna change out the bat, but they're gonna become hybrid. So like curriculum committees should be like watching this and being like, maybe we should start putting these components in. So that was my public service announcement, Brett. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's a great call out. And again, trying to kind of reach our audience in the room here today. Like if you work for an economic development organization or a workforce development organization, you should be proactively having these conversations with the educational institutions in your community. Likely many of you are, but maybe to put just a finer point on it, start those conversations, be proactive about it, start coordinating, start collaborating. Okay, the USEDA, right? Let's call it the largest economic development organization in the United States, recently announced a new pilot grant program called AI Upskill Accelerator Pilot Program. Just curious, quick answer if you can. What does that tell you about where we're going with all of this? When the top economic development organization in the country is like, hey, we're going to put $30 million, there's a ton of money out there, but what's that signal to you and maybe signals to our audience? Go ahead. We'll start with Quentin.
Yeah, I know that it's been great to start a lot of pilots for folks because they don't know the uncertainty, and that funding allows them the confidence to get something going, and then hopefully that then kind of self funds other activities. So that's the idea, and I think that that's a great momentum generator. And a lot of the projects that we've been doing, especially like a year or so ago, the stuff wasn't as popular, and it really helped things get going. So, and I think that is going to be a catalyst for a lot of this stuff. So, and if to trying to develop your region, looking for these catalysts, these vehicles to help kind of turbocharge what we're all trying to do here. It's a great tool and approach.
Kelly, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's the kickstart moment. It's the tipping point, if you will. If you haven't paid attention, you're going to pay attention now because there's dollars behind it. And this is not going to be the last of big funding coming out. There's been a trickling of big funding over the last week that came out and some big initiatives. Um, I think the signals that you should be asking those AI questions in your BNRE. You should be asking those questions in your curriculum committees. If you're not, um, there's funding to do it. So there's when you put money behind it, they're gonna start convening.
Yeah. Thanks,
So
Kelly. Okay, we've used the word fast, accelerated, quite a bit. On that note, we're going to head to what we're calling our lightning round. Um, Hopefully, I didn't freeze. Looks like I froze for a second. Lightning round
Yeah.
questions. Try to be quick, brief, and concise here. And we're going to start with Quentin. Quentin, every business should do this in the next 90 days.
Yeah, find a business problem that has some volume to it and some importance that isn't kind of too hard to go after. Just get at it. I think that you got to learn by doing. And once again, it's not a technology; it's a business it's a business solution.
I love it. And if you're a BRE rep out there in our audience, take that conversation to the businesses that you're meeting with. Help them identify that problem and start having those conversations. Kelly, what should every regional organization do in the next 90 days?
they should start convening if they haven't. So they should start meeting together, talk about funding, talk about gaps, talk about barriers, also talk about successes. And I think that is something that we have done in our previous work at TPMA is the stakeholder engagement really shows up well when you have a change that is happening and it's federal, state, and local. How do you handle that? You need to convene and you need to figure out where everybody is. So 90 days, find a space. Let's get everybody together.
I love it. Tap into that ecosystem, identify the right partners, start having conversations, start educating each other, start
Mhm.
coordinating. Really, again, classic economic development, classic workforce development, right at its core. Okay, I'm going to ask both of you to look into your crystal balls here, right? I want each of you to look 5 years out into the future, okay, and help me understand what will separate the communities and regions that successfully harnessed AI from maybe those that are struggling to keep up.
Yeah. So I'll lead, both for businesses and regions. It's an adoption. You said adoption. It's all about adoption. So what that means is that you can't have these one-off projects or programs. It needs to be a system, right? So things need to be compounding on one another. One activity feeds into the next, which feeds into the next. So I think those that are going to be successful, of course, are those that are going to be adopting it more, and are going to do that by having systems in place to kind of drive that.
Thank you, Quentin. Kelly?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Quentin too, the systems, but I'm gonna add that they continued to convene, and then they created a strategy or helped others create a strategy and fulfilled that strategy. So they created a 5-year plan. They knew exactly where they were going and they made adjustments along the way. But they also invited their education partners in to get ahead of the game so that there wasn't a skill gap or a a workforce shortage that wasn't educated enough to fulfill those jobs. So
Awesome. Thank you both so much for your time today. Enjoyed the conversation today, have enjoyed the conversations leading up to this. If you're in our audience, we did drop our bio and our contact information in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions or you think we can help. As we wrap this up today, our goal really was to have one theme or, stand out above all else on this topic, in that, AI is not just fundamentally a technology challenge, right? It really is a leadership challenge for all of us in workforce development, economic development, education, and training. And hopefully you've learned that, the communities that do succeed won't always necessarily be the ones with the newest tools or the biggest tech budgets, but they'll be the ones that have brought the right people together. They're asking the right questions. They're building partnerships. They're addressing governance. They're developing workforce strategies, and they're investing in the implementation capacity needed to help the businesses in their community adopt AI in practical and responsible ways. So the good news for all of you in the audience, you're used to these types of things, right? This is where economic development organizations, workforce partners, colleges, universities, where we know we can have the greatest impact for our constituents, our stakeholders. And so I hope you walk away today knowing, hey, you don't have to be an AI expert by tomorrow. What you do need to do is convene, connect, educate, and start to create the conditions that will help your businesses and communities adapt and compete in this very fast-paced economic climate. So again, thank you all so much for spending your time with us today. We appreciate the work that you're all doing out there. We love the work. We love the work that you all do, and keep doing good things for your regions. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. So thank you very much, everyone.